What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing a tier list on all of the Hisuian forms coming into Paldea with this new Regulation D update. Let's jump right in. Alrighty, starting off with Hisuian Arcanine, and I think Hisuian Arcanine is going to be a solid A tier. And the reasoning is going to be that it's a stronger Arcanine, and while you are 4 times weak to ground, you do have Terastallization to kind of get rid of that. You can do what old Arcanine was doing, where you can Terastallize into normal and go for things like extreme speed, and really just amplify the damage with something like Champao. Additionally, you can also run, instead of Intimidate, you can run Rockhead as well, which is going to mitigate the damage that you take from recoil moves such as Head Smash, which is an incredibly strong damaging move. So you can do something like Terra Rock, Rockhead, Life Orb, Head Smash, and just really don't take any recoil damage, and just do incredible damage up front. The move pool on Hisuian Arcanine is very similar to that of regular Arcanine. The only major differences is that you have access to Rock Slide, I believe. Let me double check. Yep, you do have access to Rock Slide, so relatively decent speed, right? 90. And something like a Choice Scarf set, something that you can do. But I do think that maybe this is going to be a more offensive Arcanine rather than the traditional Arcanine, where you can kind of do the more defensive set with like a Citrus Berry, more HP investment. This one's going to be a little bit more offensive than the regular Arcanine, where you can do things like Head Smash, Extreme Speed. You can do something like a Life Orb. You can do Close Combat. You have steel move options. I believe you have Iron Head. Yeah, you have Iron Head or Smart Strike if you want to deal with obnoxious things that like to spam evasion moves like Chansey or Shuckle. I'm not sure if Shuckle's going to be allowed, but if it is, then maybe Smart Strike is an option with Terra Steel, right? So, yep, solid A tier for Hisuian Arcanine. Alrighty, next up on the tier list, we've got Cleaver. Cleaver, I think, is a solid B tier, and I'm going to explain my reasoning here for it. So Cleaver does have a couple things going for it. Mainly, I want to talk about sharpness. So slicing moves damage is amplified by sharpness, right? So any cutting moves such as Fury Cutter is what I've seen that's been going on with Cleaver. And then he also has other cutting moves as well, like Night Slash. So you do got some move coverage that is amplified by your ability, but I think the biggest problem with Cleaver is going to be its typing, right? Bug and Rock is not the greatest typing. If we go ahead and plug it in here into the Maryland Team Builder, you'll be able to see that you're weak to Water, you're weak to Rock, and you're weak to Steel. These are all Pokemon that are really common offensive wise. We've got a lot of Steel types, a lot of Rock types running around in the meta, and I just think it's just weak to too many things to really be able to shine. Maybe I'm wrong, but I also think that it's got an incredible attack stat, but the problem is its middling speed, right? So to kind of mediate that, you could do something like Agility and really just bolster your speed up a little bit, and then put yourself in a position where you can kind of start doing things like Fury Cutter. You can also run it with something like Tailwind, and it actually gets Tailwind itself, which is really interesting. So you can catch people off guard a little bit like that. But Tailwind with maybe something like a Swords Dance set, and you can really go to town. I think it has a signature Rock type move. Let me pull that up here. Stone Axe, here we go. And this sets Stealth Rock on the target side, so this is a very interesting move that could have a lot of potential, but I think what's holding it back is its middling speed and mainly the typing. The weakness to Water is huge. Water types are everywhere, right? We got Bundle, we got Palafin, we got Dondozo, we got Tatsugiri. It's just incredibly hard for it to be able to put up with all of that, and the main reason why it could be A tier, but the main reason it's B tier is because you're forced to Terastallize and to kind of put yourself out of a bad situation, right? So that inherently is drawing resources away from you, and that is why we're going to go ahead and put it in the B tier. Next up on the list, we've got Hisuian Electrode, and Hisuian Electrode is also going to be in the B tier with Cleaver. So Hisuian Electrode is also one of those Pokemon that has a very unique typing with Electric Grass. The ability Soundproof really helps it deal with a lot of sound moves that are in the current meta, like Hyper Voice and such. Static could be interesting. It could be really good into fake out leads, right? You could get that lucky paralysis chance. And then Aftermath as well. Really, really helpful. Maybe if you could just get rid of focus sashes and stuff like that. But I think the main thing that Electrode has going for it is its incredible speed, right? 150 base speed, making it faster than things like Flutter Mane or Bundle or a lot of like the super speedy stuff that were introduced in the current meta. I'm not sure if it'll be faster than Bundle with the booster energy. So that's a calculation that we're probably going to have to run. But move-wise, you got Chloroblast, which you can do some really, really cool stuff with Terra Grass Chloroblast with like Choice Specs or Life Orb. It's basically Grass-type Steel Beam, if you remember that move that Duraludon has, where it sacrifices half of your HP, but in exchange for a 150 base power move with 95% accuracy. So doesn't miss that much, hopefully, right? Fingers crossed. But yeah, Chloroblast, Terra Grass could do some really cool things. You also have Explosion. You have Foul Play things that you can do. So something like maybe a Chloroblast. And then you could do Foul Play. You can run electric moves like Thunderbolt, right? You can also do support moves like Thunder Wave. Let's categorize this by status. You have Taunt. You have double screens. You could set up really fast screens, right? But I think it's also the grass typing is not the best, right? So if we look at the Maryland team builder here, we're looking at a weakness to fire. We're looking at a weakness to ice, to poison, to bug. There is a really nice steel resistance here with the electric typing on Electrode, but grass is giving it so many more weaknesses than it used to have as regular Electrode, right? So you can kind of, it's going to be very matchup dependent. But you could probably do something like a Light Clay, a more supportive set with like Reflect, Light Screen, Taunt, and Thunder Wave. And again, you can also blow things up with Terra Grass, Chloroblast with Choice Specs or something. It's got 80 special attack. It's not the worst, but it's also not the best, right? So that's the reasoning for tier B for Electrode. Next up on the list, we've got Hisuian Typhlosion, and this is an easy A tier, really close to S tier in my opinion. I might be a little bit biased because I started with Gen 2, but this is incredible. So you do have Blaze, as any other starter would have. You also have Frisk as an ability, which is really, really good for scouting for items, right? But I think the main thing that Hisuian Typhlosion has going for it is Eruption. So most likely something like a Scarf or Specs Eruption, with like Prankster Tailwind. It's got 95 speed, which I believe is faster than regular Typhlosion. Okay, it's a little bit slower, but look at this. It's got 10 more special attack, right? And then one of the bigger things that Typhlosion Hisuian form has over the regular Typhlosion is its ghost typing. This naturally makes it immune to things like Fake Out, right? So it's really hard to stop something like a Tailwind and a Eruption, right? So you can do something like Choice Specs. You can run this with Murkrow. And then you can do Sunny Day if you outspeed, right? And just really blow things up with Eruption. And then you also got its signature move, which is going to be the Infernal Parade, which has a 30% burn chance, right? So you could do really cool things with this because the thing is, it has a really high chance of burning. And once a target is burned, you do double damage, right? So this becomes a 120 base power move. So that's incredible. You can also do things like Will-O-Wisp and Infernal Parade. And then you could do something like Protect. And then let's check out the support moves that it has. So you could do Substitute. You could do a Calm Mind set if you wanted to, but I think just a choice set would be incredible with like Eruption, Infernal Parade, maybe even Shadow Ball. You could also run this with like Prankster Thunderous, right? For example, Thunderous spamming Thunder Wave. And then you just double up with like a Choice Scarf with Infernal Parade, and that's Terra Ghost. You could do some incredible damage with that. So I think it has a lot of flexibility, and it has a lot of potential for damage output with that incredible special attack at 119. So super excited. I'm definitely going to be trying it out, you know, come July on the ladder. So make sure to subscribe if you want to check that out. But let's go on to the next one, which is looking like it's going to be Wordier. Alrighty, next up on the list, we've got Wordier, and Wordier is going to be A tier for me. And let's go ahead and take a look here. So I'm super excited for Wordier because it's an incredibly tanky Trick Room Pokemon. So if you look at the stats here, it's got a base 103 HP, incredible mixed attacker potential with 105 attack and 105 special attack, and then 72 defense and 75 special defense with a 65 speed, perfect for Trick Room in my opinion. And then its signature move, Psy Shield Bash, 100% chance to raise the defense by 1. So this is, you're just going to be spamming this move after you set up your Trick Room. And if your opponent has a lot of physically offensive Pokemon, so picture this, right? You lead, you intimidate, then you start spamming Psy Shield Bash. You just get so far ahead from physical attackers that they can't really touch you, right? So it's going to be really matchup dependent in my opinion, and this could be slotted in on your team as an additional Trick Room setter that potentially has better matchups into you know, maybe steel types that want to smack things like your Hatterini or your Indeedee Armorers, right? So you could slot this in as an extra Trick Room setter for certain matchups that aren't really favored for your original Trick Room setter, if that's Indeedee or Armorers or Hatterini or whatever you're using, right? So yeah, Psy Shield Bash, incredible move, 70 base power, Psychic Stab. You could do things like, you know, Fairy Terra. You can do Terra Blast, and you can EV a little bit for special attack, and then you can have Terra Blast be special. So it has a lot of flexibility with the versatility in its attack and special attack stat. And you also have really, really good support moves like Hypnosis. I believe you also get, do you get Taunt? I don't think you get Taunt, and you don't. You get Helping Hand? You do. You get Helping Hand. You get Disable. I don't know, I feel like there's just incredible potential here with Wordier, and I'm super excited to see what it can do with some of the Trick Room sweepers that are coming in from the Hisui region. So let's move on to those. But yeah, solid A tier for Wordier. Alrighty, next up we've got Overquill, and this is borderline A tier, high B tier in my opinion. And I think the reasoning is because of its typing. So if you look at Overquill's typing here, it's got really good resistances into things like Ghost, Dark, Grass, and Poison, and then it only has one weakness to Ground and an immunity to Psychic. This means that it's free reign for Psy Spam, you know? It's got Intimidate, which is an amazing ability. That alone makes it borderline A tier for me. You also have Swift Swim, so it could be a Rain Sweeper without the actual water typing, which we don't see a lot of. It's just Dark Poison is such an incredible typing in my opinion. And then looking at its stats, it's got a solid attack stat at 115, and then that 85 base speed puts it in range to outspeed a lot of stuff with Swift Swim. So I think it has potential to be an incredible support Pokemon, right? Looking at its moves, it's got its signature move Barb Barrage, which is 50% poison chance, 2 times power if the target is already poisoned, right? So that off the bat is incredible. So looking at its moves, right, you have Barb Barrage, which is going to be your main source of damage, and keep in mind, this with Glimmora could see a lot of usage, right? Because of the toxic spikes that Glimmora is going to be setting. It essentially guarantees that things are going to be poisoned, and then Barb Barrage will be doing double damage, right? So that's incredible. And then you also have Taunt and Haze for Dondozo. So just overall, just a really, really good support Pokemon that you could be running. And then you have some very interesting moves as well, like Acupressure. You also have Destiny Bond if you want to do something cheesy like that. Or even, I hate to mention this, but Minimize is also an option, which is really, really bad. You also have Rain Dance if you wanted to do something like Manual Rain and catch your opponents off guard. But overall, I mean, defense-wise could be a little bit better, but I think its typing carries it so hard. Only having a weakness to Ground. And then so many other resistances, and you could do something like Terra Flying to avoid that, and now you know you're going to be avoiding that ground type damage. So yeah, decent Pokemon, not the best, but it's pretty up there. Alrighty, next up we've got Ursa Luna, or as some people have been calling it on Twitter and on Smogon, Cocaine Bear. This Pokemon is cracked out of its mind, dude. Super easy S tier for me on this one. So let's talk about it. So Ursa Luna has Guts, right? And you can just pair that with a Flame Orb, And now you're bolstering your incredible 140 attack stat, 130 HP, and then look at these defenses, 105 and 80. Perfect for Trick Room, right? Really, really good speed here. And now you can spam things like Headlong Rush. You can do Facade, which is doubled when you are status, right? So that infamous Guts Facade combo. You can do something like Terra Normal and go to town with Facade, or even Terra Ground if you want to do Headlong Rush. But I just think Terra Normal is going to be crazy. It's just going to be an insane Trick Room sweeper, in my opinion. Really not much more to say. You do have Bulletproof, which is kind of cheesy. I don't think that's really going to be used. Maybe even a nerf could see some usage, just to stop berries from being used. But yeah, super incredible Pokemon here with Ursa Luna. Easy S tier, the first one of the series. Alrighty, next up we've got Hisuian Sneasel's evolution, Sneezler. And this is also going to be in the A tier, and let's go ahead and take a look as to why. So for its abilities, Sneezler has Pressure, Unburden, and Poison Touch. I think Unburden is incredible because you can do things like Fake Out Normal Gem and then immediately double your base 120 speed. So you could start potentially rivaling things like Regieleki or, you know, Fluttermane, Iron Bundle, etc. So this is really good. And then you also have its signature move, Dire Claw, which is an incredible RNG of a mess. And let me explain. So Dire Claw has a 50% chance to sleep, poison, or paralyze, right? So this is going to be an incredibly fun Pokemon to watch because you never know if it's going to put the opposing Pokemon to sleep, is it going to poison it, or is it going to paralyze it, right? So I'm expecting to see really funny clips of Sneezler doing Sneezler things. But I think Dire Claw and Unburden is really what makes this Pokemon up in the A tier. You can do things like fast U-turn for repositioning, and then you have Stab Close Combat with its fighting type. Its typing leaves a little bit to be desired. Let's take a look here. Sneezler. So poison fighting, it's exactly like Croagunk, right? So you got a weakness to ground, flying, and I think that's a 4x weakness to psychic, so it's not too bad. And you kind of are neutral to a lot of stuff, but you do resist grass, poison, and fighting. So overall, I'd say it's pretty solid. It's not the best. Just got to watch out for size spam, right? So maybe something like a Terra Dark could work on Sneezler, or even just Terra Poison and double down on that Dire Claw. So that's incredible. It's worth mentioning this could really work with Hisuian Typhlosion's signature move, which means if they're statused, you can kind of just spam Infernal Parade, right, and do double damage based off of so it could be like a really cool combination, Dire Claw, Infernal Parade, and just really pick KOs up really quick because it's a combination of a physical move followed up by a special move, right? So it's a little bit hard to really defend against. Alrighty, next up on the list we've got Hisuian Samurott, the other starter here, and that's going to be a B tier, high B tier in my opinion. So let's take a look at Hisuian Samurott. So it's got the super cool ability in Sharpness. It's also got its signature move called Ceaseless Edge, which sets a layer of spikes on the opposing side. The power leaves a little bit to be desired, and the accuracy is a little shaky. But I think it's got a really cool signature in breaking sashes with that by setting up the spikes. And then we also have Sacred Sword, which is really good into things like Dondozo, right? If they do get that boost, the Sacred Sword is going to ignore those, as well as, you know, Sharpness boosting the power of Ceaseless Edge and Aqua Cutter, just super all. And then you could do something like a high crit rate build, so you could do Scope Lens, Sharpness, and then Aqua Cutter, and then you could even do something like Night Slash if you don't like Ceaseless Edge's damage output, right? So you could do something like a crit build, and then you also have priority with Aqua Jet to pick up KOs. The stats are pretty decent. You've got 108 attack, which is pretty impressive actually, and then the speed is middling tier, which could work in a Tailwind or Trick Room situation, so it's got a lot of versatility. And then Terrestrialization type, I think maybe you could do something like Dark with Night Slash and Sharpness, along with Scope Lens. You could really just get some really crazy damage output with that combination. So solid B tier, almost A tier. If the stats were a little bit better, maybe we could do something with it, but yeah. All right, next up we got Lilligan. Lily Cole Enjoyers, he just got a buff. Hisuian Lilligan, easy A tier, almost S tier in my opinion. This Pokemon is incredibly versatile, and what it can do is really, really scary, actually. So you can already do things that original Lilligan was doing, right? Which is the after eruption, you can do sleep powders, but now it has Ice Spinner. Now it can get rid of Psychic Terrains for those pesky matchups into Indeedee Armor Rouge. You also got its signature move, which is the physical version of Quiver Dance, which boosts your attack, defense, and speed by 1. Already has incredible speed at 105. With Chlorophyll, you're going to be outspeeding a lot of the faster things like Flutter Mane and Iron Bundle, given it doesn't have a booster energy. And then you also have Leaf Guard if you want to do something like, preventing status conditions for your partners. And then you also have Hustle to further boost your damage. In my opinion, really shouldn't be using, just do the traditional Chlorophyll after you with Torkoal, and then spam Eruption. I'm super excited for this Pokemon because it's got so much potential. And then for moves like physical side, we've got Close Combat, right? And then we also have, what grass moves do we have? We've got Grassy Glide, right? So if there's a grassy terrain, you got priority to really start picking things up here. Bullet Seed, Leaf Blade for high crit damage, and then Petal Blizzard, Seed Bomb, Solar Blade. Solar Blade actually could see some use, right? Because you're going to be running it with Torkoal, right? So this could be your main source of damage. And then Ice Spinner, I think, is incredible for removing that psychic terrain. And then you can bring things in the back like Palafin to really start doing damage after that terrain is removed, or even Chien-Pao Dragonite, right? So I think this is going to be a really strong Pokemon, really popular. And Lily Cole enjoyers, you won. Next up on the list, we've got Basculegion, another really high A tier. I would say like A plus, borderline S tier. And let's take a look why. So Basculegion, just like Houndstone, has access to Last Respects, right? So it's an incredible late game sweeper, because you get the 50 power for each team party member that has fainted, right? And then there's 2 variations of Basculegion, right? The female and the male version. The main difference here is that the female is more of a special attacker or mixed attacker, however you want to look at it. And then the male Basculegion has that higher attack stat, right? So they have the same speed, same defenses. The only difference is they trade a little bit of 10 points actually moved over from the attack over down to the special attack. So mainly I think male Basculegion is going to be the biggest user because we do have access to Wave Crash, which is incredible. You do have, as an ability, you have Swift Swim, Adaptability, which your stab is going to be bonus, right? So you could do something like Terra Water, Wave Crash with Adaptability and the Life Orb, and that's just going to be incredible damage, right? You could also do Terra Ghost with Last Respects, and Adaptability and a Life Orb or Choice Band, right? So this is just so potent. It's also a Rain Sweeper with Swift Swim, right? You've got 78 speed, which is nothing to scoff at. Could be a little bit higher, but not complaining. Swift Swim's still going to bolster that speed to make it faster than a lot of things. Maybe not Regieleki, right? But yeah, female Basculegion, let's see what it's got going for it on the special side. Yeah, I'm not thinking, maybe Icy Wind, you could do some things to really control the speed. You could do things like Blizzard, like with a Hail Team maybe. More of a supportive side with Chilling Water. Yeah, I just think the physical variation is just incredible and a lot stronger. So I think Basculegion almost breaking into that S tier. You could argue that it's low S tier in my opinion. Just looking at Adaptability, Wave Crash, Terra Water is insane. Palafin's got some competition for water types for sure now coming in. Next up, we've got Hisuian Zoroark, and this one is one that we've had access to for a while if you pre-ordered the DLC for Scarlet and Violet. But yeah, I think A tier for Hisuian Zoroark. Maybe not as good as Basculegion, but I think the strength of Hisuian Zoroark, along with its ability Illusion, is its typing. Normal Ghost has 3 immunities. You're immune to Fighting, your Ghost, and Normal. In addition to a resistance to Poison and Bug, your only weakness being Dark. So very akin to something like Poison Dark, right? Like Alolan Muck or Overquill, where you only have 1 weakness and several resistances. The 3 immunities is insane to me. So if you disguise this well with Illusion, it could really catch a lot of people off guard. They did fix the bug with Illusion where it would reveal you when you would terrestrialize or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. If you remember, feel free to correct me in the comment section. But only a weakness to Dark, and then you can run something like Terra Fairy. I don't think you have any Fairy moves, so you'd have to run Terra Blast. But immediately being able to flip the script on Dark types with Terra Blast and Terra Fairy. Additionally, special attack is nothing to scoff at, man. 125 special attack here. I think this is a Pokemon that's not going to want to terrestrialize because it wants to take advantage of that normal ghost typing that is so incredible. Bitter Malice has 100% chance to lower the target's attack by 1 stat, so that's an incredible move with 75 base power and 100% accuracy, so that's a pretty good move. Normal wise, you can do like Stab, you can do, I think it gets Hyper Voice, exactly, yeah it does. And then you have Hyper Beam if you want to blow things up. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Hyper Voice or Hyper Beam is going to be your coverage. You can also do Terra Blast and really just, it's an 80 base power stab without having to terrestrialize and really just use normal stab Terra Blast as a special attack, right? So yeah, super cool. In the status department for its moves, let's take a look here. So you can do a Calm Mindset. Nasty Plot is insane. So with like something like Follow Me support or Rage Powder, maybe even something like that resists Dark, right? You could do something like Vivillon or Vivillon, I believe is how you say it. And then you could Rage Powder Dark moves away from Zoroark, right? You could do something like a Weakness Policy, and you could do Nasty Plot and then really just start sweeping with Hyper Voice. So it's got incredible potential with that base 125 special attack, and clearly, I mean, it's an A tier for me. Alrighty guys, we're almost done here. Bravery is going to be B tier for me, and it's a slower Bravery with an emphasis on special attack, right? It's got a little bit more special attack, a lot more than regular Bravery. With the Psychic Flying typing, it's got access to abilities like Sheer Force and Tinted Lens. So with Tinted Lens, you can do really cool things where a lot of things do resist Psychic as a typing. So you can amplify the damage of your signature move, which if we pull it up here, Esper Wing, here we go, which has 100% chance to raise the user's speed by 1 with a high critical hit rate. So Sheer Force would ignore that high critical hit rate and the speed boost, but it would boost the damage output, which is 80 power and 100% accurate. So it's not a bad move per se, but I think the problem with Bravery is that it's got 65 speed and it needs a lot to get going. If it was a little bit faster, maybe less bulky, I would really like Esper Wing as a move, because not only does it, you know, boost your speed by 1, but it has a high critical hit chance, so you could do something like a Scope Lens. And then on the flying department, what are we looking at? We're looking at Air Slash, maybe Hurricane in the Rain as a stab move. You also have Air Cutter if you wanted to do like a spread high crit chance with like Scope Lens and Esper Wing. So that's definitely something that you can try. But I think the best ability is definitely going to be Tinted Lens here. Just for, you know, Esper Wing spam, you're just going to be able to spam it into anything that does really resist Psychic. But unfortunately, the speed is a little lackluster, and that puts it in the B tier for me. Alright, next up we've got Sligu and its Hisuian form, right? I'm putting it in the C tier, and the reason why I took out all the pre-evolution Pokemon and the legendaries, but I left Sligu in for a reason. So you can do something, if you look at its defense stats, right, 83 and 113, you can do something like Eviolite, right? With its typing of Steel Dragon, it's got very few weaknesses. So let's do Sligu here, just so you can kind of see. But look at all these resistances. You resist normal, water, electric, flying, psychic, bug, rock, steel, as well as just only being weak to fighting and ground and immune to poison, right? So just a plethora of types that you resist as Sligu. And then I believe its signature move, which is incredible, I believe it's Shelter. Here we go. So this will raise the user's defense by 2, right? Look at its incredible special defense, right? So you could do something like this and then spam Shelter. And then does he get Recover? It doesn't. Okay, that would be broken. You also have Acid Armor, right? So if you want to spam both of these, that's incredible. Damage wise, you know, it's more of a special attacker, right? So let's look at the special side and see what we're dealing with here. You've got Blizzard. You got Steel Beam if you want to use that and cut your HP in half, but without access to leftovers, because you are forced to use Eviolite, maybe that's not really an option. You could run something like Dracometer to nuke something, especially because you're not too concerned. Your staying power on the field with, you know, the Shelter and Acid Armor is really, really good. I remember this move healing, so maybe it was only in like Legends Arceus that it would heal, but it looks like once, you know, you bring it over to Paldea, it only raises users defense by 2. I believe it used to heal. I'm not entirely sure. I might be wrong. But yeah, you've got, you know, solid coverage with Ice Beam and Thunderbolt. So you can really hit things off of your base 83 special attack, which is not bad. It's up there with like Porygon 2, I think. Which reminds me, he's coming back with the national decks with Regulation D. Super excited for that. Special attack. Oh yeah, he's got way higher special attack. No. What am I talking about? Yeah, so anyways, Sligu, you know, Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, Shelter, Acid Armor. You could do things like, you know, Pollen Puff and keep it healthy. But yeah, I mean, it's not the best, clearly, right? That's why it's in the C tier, but it does have some pretty incredible stats, and it's got that Shelter and Acid Armor combination. So, you know, while not the best, it can be up there. It's not like the, you know, other pre-evolution Pokemon that really can't do much. Maybe you could argue that Hisuian Quillfish could do something with Eviolite as well, but I really don't think so. The only main reason I included Sligu is because of its amazing defenses. So, yep, easy C tier for me, and yeah. Alrighty, guys, next up we've got Hisuian Gudra. Gudra is going to go into the B tier, and I'm really excited about this Pokemon because it's incredibly tanky, holy. So you can do something like Leftovers, right? And then ability-wise, you can do Sap Sipper, right? Shell Armor is nice to avoid being struck by crit, and then you can also spam the same combination that I just mentioned with Shelter and Acid Armor. But the difference is that you have Body Press, right? So you have solid damage output on Body Press, and then Dracometer as well. You don't care about dropping your special attack too much. Off of base 110 is super strong. I also want to mention with Sap Sipper, you can run double slugs, right? You can run Gudra and Gastrodon, and Gastrodon naturally baits those grass moves, and you can switch in Gudra, you know, really just get a free switch. The attack boost really won't matter too much because you're not going to be using that stat, but the immunity to grass is incredible for switching in. And then Body Press, Dracometer, incredible damage output, incredible staying power with like Shelter, Acid Armor, and Leftovers. That combination seems so toxic. Look at this, 100 defense and 150 special defense is insane. So you can do something like this, or potentially even like this. But yeah, Terra type, maybe you could run something like Grass Terra. Again, it's also got the same typing going for it as Sligu, right? It's also Dragon Steel, so you resist a ton of stuff. You only have 2 weaknesses, and you have an immunity, which is super incredible defensive wise. So really hard Pokemon to remove, I believe, and yeah, super excited to see what people can do with it. All right, moving on. Alrighty, next up we've got Hisuian Avalog, and that's going to be C tier. Maybe you could argue it's low B tier, but I think the problem with Hisuian Avalog is it's super slow, right? Maybe you could fit it on something like a Trick Room team, and you could spam something like Rock Slide or Head Smash. You also have access to Strong Jaw, right? So you can do like the Fang moves, which is only Ice Fang actually, which is a little sad. Its signature move, Mountain Gale, unfortunately, the combination of Strong Jaw and Ice Fang surpasses it, and it's got a better accuracy, so I don't think you even want to run its signature move. So it's a little unfortunate. Its defense is incredible, 184, but unfortunately that's negated by its awful typing with Ice and Rock, right? So Avalog, Hisuian, you know, Ice Rock table, not good. Which is unfortunate because it's a pretty cool Pokemon if you ask me, but yeah, C tier for me. Next up we've got Hisuian Decidue, and that's also going to be in the A tier with its Hisuian brother, the Typhlosion, the other starter. So Hisuian Decidue has got a couple things going for it. Mainly Scrappy to ignore Intimidate, you've got immunity to that, and then it makes it so that its fighting moves, mainly its signature move, can hit ghost types. So I want to talk about it. So triple arrows is 90 base power with 100% accuracy. And then look at this, high critical hit rate, 50% chance to lower defense by 1, and 30% chance to flinch. It's got basically the same treatment that Sneezler's move has, which is 3 effects in 1, which is absolutely ridiculous. So you could roll something like a high crit with lowering the defense and making them flinch, which is actually crazy if you think about it. You also have, you know, grassy terrain shenanigans with Grassy Glide. You got Trailblaze to boost your speed. It's 60, so it's not the best. Maybe you can run it in Trick Room instead. And then you also have Leaf Blade as coverage, as stab. I mean, and move-wise, I mean, support-wise, let's see what we got. For support moves, you can run things like Curse or Bulk Up, which is really, really good to, you know, sweep under Trick Room. You have Light Screen and Reflect. You've got Roost if you want to heal up. Sword Stance for sweeping. Tailwind even, so you could even do Tailwind stuff. You got Taunt to stop Trick Room. So it's got a decent support move pool. You got Feather Dance as well. You can set up manual Grassy Terrain, Helping Hand as well. And then the typing leaves a little bit to be desired, just like Breloom, right? So let's pull up Decidue here. It's that ×4 to flying type, and then you're weak to fire, you're weak to ice, poison, psychic, and then the ×4 to flying, and then fairy. You do have a couple resistances to really popular types like water, grass, and dark, and then the electric typing as well, and ground you resist as well. So maybe could be a Terra user for Terra fighting or something like that, but yep. Scrappy and triple arrows is an incredible combination. Super excited to see what Hisuian Decidue can do. All right, next up we've got Enamorous, and I think both variations of Enamorous are going to go into the S tier with Ursa Luna. So let's talk about that. So we've got the regular, or the Therian form, not the Therian form, like the incarnate form, sorry, for Enamorous, right? With abilities in Cute Charm and Contrary. I mean, I guess you could lead it into Intimidate and have your attack boosted, and you can do things like Play Rough. Yeah, that's one thing that you could do. I'm still trying to think like what moves it could use. Superpower maybe? Yeah, okay. You can do superpower where you're boosting your attack and defense by 1. That's super interesting actually. All right, you know what? I'd say the incarnate form is probably A tier. I thought contrary. I thought this was competitive, but it's actually contrary, so that's really, really bad. You can do some cheesy stuff with like Intimidate, lead into it, and then spam superpower off of 115 base attack. Not bad, not the best though. It definitely is a special attacker. You have a Springtide Storm, right, which has a 30% chance to lower the foe's attack by 1. It's going to be a spread fairy type move with a base 100 power, and the accuracy unfortunately leaving a little bit to be desired at 80%. With maximum of 8 PP, right? So yeah, that's a little unfortunate. You could do things like, you know, Draining Kiss. Support move wise, let's see what we got going for it. You got Tailwind, you got Taunt. So you got solid support moves. You have Imprison as well if you wanted to do something like that. Then you have all the terrains, Grassy and Misty. Well, just Grassy and Misty, but yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunately A tier. If this was competitive instead of Contrary, this would be S tier easily. But I think Therian form Enamorous is definitely going to be a little bit better. Its ability is going to be Overcoat, and while it does have immunity to like Sandstorm teams, like damage, you're not going to be taking damage from Sandstorm. I think the main reason it has Overcoat is for things like Spore and Sleep Powder, right? An immunity to Spore and Sleep Powder, where it wants to be something like a Trick Room Sweeper and being able to ignore Rage Powder as well, just makes it so that its matchup into Amoonguss is so much better, right? So maybe you can run fire moves. Let's see what we got. Yeah, Mystical Fire for coverage for like grass types like Amoonguss itself. Let me see if you have any psychic moves. You got Psychic if you wanted to really dunk on Amoonguss if you really don't like the matchup. But flying wise, you could probably just go for stab, right? You've got Tailwind if you wanted to do that. You definitely want to be running this thing in Trick Room, but Fly is its only move for flying type. That's weird. Yeah, I don't know. I think Springtide Storm and Moonblast are its main moves. And then you could run something like Protect and then Taunt. I think that's really, really good. But yeah, Springtide Storm, Terra Fairy, you know, lowering the opponent's attack off of base 135 special attack is pretty cool, I think. So there we have it, guys. That's the tier list in and of itself. S tier, Ursa Luna. Maybe you could argue this is A tier, with Ursa Luna being the only S tier, but I'll leave it up there. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Did you guys agree with my tier list, or do you feel strongly otherwise? Let me know in the comment section. I'm always excited to see you know, what you guys think about my tier list and if I'm right or wrong. So thanks so much for watching the video all the way to the end, and I really do appreciate you guys. Catch you guys on the next one. Peace.